Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline is Tom Farrey. We have talked about his interest in Jimmer Fredette. Outside the Lines will air this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Mountain Time for those watching in Utah. Tom, welcome to BYU Sports Nation.
Hey, great to be here.
Why did Jimmer Fredette initially interest you as a special piece that we're all excited to see on Sunday morning?
Yeah, well, he was a special player, right, back in college. I mean, he got a lot of people excited a few years ago with the run there at BYU, and got taken in the NBA, and then it stuck around for a few years. But then he moved on, and when we heard he was in China, and he was leading the league in scoring, and ultimately, just recently, was named the MVP, we said, what's going on here? And people seemed to be really responding to him. He turned a team around over there, and so we hopped on a plane and went to Shanghai and tried to understand Jimmer Mania Phase 2.
To some degree, Tom, you want to keep it spoiler-free, right? You want people to watch the piece and learn the most. But what are some of the things that you learned about Jimmer in this process?
Well, he's a great guy, number one. I mean, he's one of the most approachable athletes. I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. One of the most approachable, down-to-earth, humble, decent guys I've ever dealt with. I really enjoyed my time with him. I also really appreciated, and I think the Chinese people appreciate, how much he has inserted himself and respected the culture over there. You know, a lot of players go to China. It's a short 4-month season. You can make a lot of money, but it can be a pretty confusing place. It's a different language, different culture, different food, and it's easy just to kind of keep yourself in your own apartment and just watch ESPN all day. And Jimmer does his fair watching of ESPN, but he also gets out. You know, he hops on the subway and he tries different foods, and he's learned a little bit of the language, and generally he's just been has really embraced everything that comes along with being a basketball player in China. And China is a huge country and actually has more people who are fans of the game than actually live in the United States. So I think the culture saw that and responded to him, and they embraced him back. So now he's loved up in China.
Tom Farrey, ESPN journalist, 2-time Emmy Award winner, with us on BYU Sports Nation, the man behind the documentary piece, The Lonely Master, Jimmer Fredette, that we will watch on Sunday morning via ESPN. Can you explain to us what Jimmer Mania through the eyes of a fan is like in China?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, if you're a Shanghai Sharks fan, it means you're winning a heck of a lot more than you're winning in the past. They've been, this is the team that Yao Ming came up through before he joined the NBA, but they haven't done anything since then. They've been sort of bottom of the barrel for a number of years. Jimmer gets over there. The players look at him and say, that's your import? I mean, he's 6'2", he's skinny. He's not your typical NBA player. And then he just starts lighting it up, and they start winning. They had a great record this year, one of the top, 3 or 4 teams in the entire league. So the Shanghai Sharks fans, who were, maybe 1,000 of them or so, were going to games at the start of the season. By the end, they were selling. By the midseason, they were selling out. So I think Sharks fans just love the fact that he's productive. But I also think people over there see something additional in him. As one of the fans told us, they said, he's like a Chinese guy, and I think what he meant by that he's very family first, and he's very humble, and he is seems to have values that are consistent with those that a lot of people in China appreciate. So I think there was a really interesting cultural connection there.
I'm trying to remember. I know it's been a couple weeks since you shot the piece, but he had a baby during the season where he flew back to Denver, and then he flew back to China. A pretty crazy sequence for him, I think, right?
Yeah, it's hard. The thing about China is because we all know it's literally on the other side of the earth. When he is awake, people are asleep over here. So it's hard to connect as much as you want. There's no Facebook in China. There's no Twitter. The government doesn't allow it. So you can feel a little bit disconnected. And, he's got his wife, and now he has a baby, his first kid, and she had a complicated pregnancy, and I think it was not easy on him being that far apart from her. And so he he let the team know very early on. And look, I would really like to head back and be there for the birth of my first child. And teams haven't always been responsive to that over there because they really do care about winning their games. But he made it a priority, and he's such a good guy that they let him do that. And in fact, on the eve of their first playoff game, he missed it. He flew back to Denver and was there for the birth of the first kid, and they came back and they won the next couple games, and ultimately they lost in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs. So yeah, his absence probably had an effect on whether the team advanced or not. But I think Jimmer's priorities were such that he really wanted to be with family, and I think people over there understood and appreciated that.
I think everybody is always looking at the next potential landing spot for Jimmer Fredette, especially after being named the international MVP in the Chinese Basketball Association. What do you think is the next thing for Jimmer Fredette in his professional basketball career?
I think hopefully he's going to have a difficult decision to make here. Clearly, he has real opportunities in China. He was paid well this year and had a couple of sponsorships, and he's going to get more moving forward if he decides to return to China. So financially, it probably makes sense to stay in China, to go back and do it for a number of years. He can actually help the Chinese basketball culture advance over there because people have fallen in love with him so much, and they like the flair in his game and the creativity, and it's what they want their players to be. And so it sparks imaginations. And so he can have a real impact on the basketball in the largest basketball-loving country in the world. That's pretty attractive, especially if he can bring his family over there. Having said that, I think the NBA is still an itch he wants to scratch. See if he can nail. I mean, it didn't work out as well as he wanted on the first go. Didn't work out with a little success with the Kings, but not what he expected. And then, three other teams, short stints, didn't work out. So I don't know. The NBA may have just kind of made up its mind on Jimmer. On the other hand, the NBA may say to itself, well, look, Steph Curry is, a guy of roughly the same size that can put it up from everywhere. And, defense isn't his strength, just as it isn't, maybe Jimmer's strength. So maybe some team says to itself, hey, we want a scorer. We need a scorer, and Jimmer's that guy, great teammate, give him a chance. It's going to take the right coach in the right situation. But if Jimmer is, not guaranteed, but really gets a sense he's going to get real minutes on an NBA team, wouldn't surprise me to see him back here as well.
Tom, he's got this nickname, the Lonely Master, and I imagine you guys will explore that in the piece, in the tease that I saw online. Can you tell us a little bit about that nickname and how he got it and what's going on there?
Yeah, well, they have a term called Jimo Dashen, which means the lonely god. And I think maybe because of his name, Jimmer, Jimo Jimmer, it got started, and people ran with it. And at first, Jimmer was a little bit alarmed by it. He thought, well, I don't want to be lonely. I'm not that lonely of a guy. But what they mean over there is, it sounds like this, guy stuck in a closet or something. But no, what it means is that you were so good that you were above all others. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I can handle that. So they ran with it, and he ran with it. And it's just really taken off. And it means lonely God, but Jimmer, modest guy that he's not really comfortable with the idea of being called a god. Maybe Saul's not consistent with his values or his religious orientation, but he prefers he prefers lonely master. So that's how he refers to himself. But it technically means lonely God.
He is a demigod around these parts, though. I'll tell you that.
That's true.
Hey, Tom, great stuff. We appreciate the time that you've given us, and we look forward to watching Jimmer in China this Sunday morning, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, on ESPN Outside the Lines. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Enjoy it, guys.